Thank you so much, John. Good morning. My name's Jane and I'm going to be your service coordinator today. There are lots of things going on at North Chapel each week. Please take time to read through your order of service. It has all the information in there. Also, you can go to the website to keep updated with everything that's going on. I do have an announcement from Leon. He would like you all to know that the Woodstock clergy is getting together this week to discuss an event that we might hold here in Woodstock to recognize what's been unfolding in Minneapolis and St. Paul. So please keep an eye on your emails so that we can join in there how we would like to. And then, before I forget and Joanne shouts at me, there's a blood drive coming up on February 13th. There's posters at the back. If please you could take one and post them in your area, and we can try and get as many people in for a blood drive. That would be fantastic. Tatum is here to lead spiritual exploration for anybody who would like to join, by the looks of it. We've got 2 kids, yay, great. And then if you are visiting today, we'd love you to have you sign the guest book at the back. And I hate asking this, but if you would like to stand up and introduce yourself, which sounds terrifying to me, but you're more than welcome to do so if you would like. We also have hearing assisted devices in the back and large print order of services should you require or want one. Coffee hour will be downstairs, which is a wonderful time to visit with each other after service today. Please stay and enjoy each other's company. And the Music and Worship Committee are on coffee duty this month, so I'm sure it's going to be wonderful. Thank you very much to them. Last quick notice, please silence anything that makes noise, cell phones, children, whatever you choose. Our theme for February is progress, and it is in the order of service, but I wanted to just read the poem that was selected to reflect this theme. The road that lies ahead of us is a long one, and the pace of progress will sometimes feel glacially slow. Never forget that glaciers over time can carve out grand canyons and great lakes. Moving tectonic plates can rise mountains over millennia, or they can explode awe-inspiring volcanoes in a millisecond. Our commitment to love and justice can do the same. We'll now have a time for silent meditation and prayer. Today's reflection is being given by our guest, Joe Major. Joe is a Vermont State Senator representing Windsor District. He is a graduate of Howard University, a former U.S. Army officer, Hartford's town treasurer, and the executive director of the Upper Valley Aquatic Center in White River Junction, which incidentally is one of my daughter's favorite places in the world. Lily and I often talk about integrity. For me, integrity is when our actions match our words. Words without action just feel hollow. Over the last year, nearly every protest or social gathering that I've been to for social justice, Joe has been there too. Not to speak or to lead, but simply to be present with the community. Across all of his roles, Joe reflects the kind of progress that we're naming today. Progress rooted in love, justice, and faithful practice of showing up. Please join me in welcoming Joe.
Good morning, friends. Good morning. Oh, come on, you gotta be better than that. Good morning, friends. Good morning. Thank you for welcoming me into this space today. It is an honor to be here at North Chapel, a place that so many churches in Vermont have quietly witnessed generations of people trying to live decent lives, ask hard questions, and care for one another through changing times. I'm here today not just as a Vermont State Senator, but as a neighbor, as a friend, and as a community member. And like many of you, still someone trying to figure this out as I go. The theme for February is progress. And when I first heard that, my instinct immediately went to the legislature. Terms like bills passed, policies improved, and problems solved. But the longer I sat with it, the more I realized that progress, real progress, is rarely clean or fast, and certainly isn't limited to politics. The poem we've been given names this truthfully and beautifully. The road ahead is long, the pace may feel glacial, and yet glaciers carve canyons. Mountains rise, change happens, and sometimes so slowly we doubt it even happens at all. That tension between urgency and patience, between hope and frustration, has shaped much of my life. When I think about progress in a place like Woodstock, my mind does not go to sweeping gestures, but to rooms like this one. North Chapel sits quietly in the middle of town, where it doesn't demand attention, it simply endures. Over the years, it's been a place where people have gathered in moments of joy and grief, conviction and doubt. People have sat in those pews, wrestling with the same essential questions that we do today. How do we live well? How do we care for one another? And what do we owe the future? What strikes me about Woodstock and about places like North Chapel is how progress happens not through headlines, but through habit, through people showing up for town meeting year after year, through volunteers who quietly keep institutions alive, through conversations that don't always end in agreement, but do end and continue relationship. I come to believe that that's Vermont's particular genius. Progress rooted in place, in knowing one another well enough to disagree without walking away, in valuing community as much as we do change, in understanding that community, like faith, is never finished. Standing here today, I'm aware that whether progress we hope to make as a state or as a society depends on places like this continuing to exist. Places where we slow down, we reflect, and we remind ourselves that we belong to something larger than individual certainty. Now, I didn't grow up imagining that one day I'd be a Vermont State Senator. My path wasn't straight or even inevitable. But like many Vermonters, I've lived a life shaped by community. Coaches, teachers, neighbors, volunteers, people who showed up consistently without any recognition. Some of the most formative lessons I've learned came from not moments of dramatic change, but steady patience. From watching people keep their word. From seeing institutions like schools and libraries and town meetings, churches, hold space for disagreement without losing their sense of shared responsibility. I've also learned that progress often feels deeply uncomfortable when you're in it. In public life, you hear from people who are hurting, angry, afraid, or exhausted. And sometimes all of those things at once. And if I'm being honest, there are days that the weight of that is heavy. When progress feels like less of a forward march, but more like pushing a boulder up a hill, only to wake up the next morning and find that that boulder has come back down. But I stay engaged. I believe deeply that disagreement is not neutrality. And because we've seen what happens when people stop believing that their participation matters. While I don't presume that we all define spiritual the same way, I suspect many of us share a sense that there is something larger than ourselves at work, something that asks us to act with care, humility, and courage. For me, spirituality shows up most clearly in the idea of interdependence. None of us makes progress alone. Every step forward, whether personal or collective, is built on unseen labor of others. People who came before us, people who planted trees that they knew that they would never sit beneath. People who believe that loving your neighbor wasn't just a sentiment, but a practice. In that way, progress is not just about outcomes. It's about alignment. Aligning our actions with our values, even when the results are uncertain or even slow. I think of the poem's closing line, "Our commitment to love and justice can do the same." Commitment is spiritual and discipline. It requires us to keep showing up, even when we don't feel rewarded, even when we're tired, even when progress feels invisible. In literature, progress is rarely dramatic. It often looks like compromise, listening longer than you'd like, accepting incremental wins, passing a bill that was better than what existed, even when it's far from perfect. That can be frustrating in a world that wants instant solutions and clean narratives. But I've come to believe that durable progress is almost always incremental. And just as importantly, progress is not linear. There will be setbacks. There are moments when we realize that we thought progress, and progress does leave people behind. There are times when we have to slow down, reassess, and admit we did something wrong. That too is a part of the work. One of the quiet gifts of public service has been the way it's forced me to grow internally. Progress has meant learning to listen without immediately preparing a response. It's meant sitting with discomfort instead of rushing to solve it. It's meant recognizing that being right is less important than being in the relationship. And it's meant accepting my own understanding is not always incomplete. That realization is humbling. It has been deeply spiritual for me. It reminds me that progress begins not with certainty, but with curiosity. Not with dominance, but with openness. If there's one thing I hope that we can hold on to together, it's that progress is a shared journey and not a solitary achievement. Whether we're talking about justice, community, healing, or personal growth, the road ahead will always be longer than we expect. The pace will often be slow. But that doesn't mean nothing's happening. Sometimes progress is happening underground, out of sight, reshaping the landscape in ways we won't even fully appreciate until much later. And sometimes the most important progress we make is simply choosing not to give up on one another. I'll close with a poem, Let Us. That's with commitment. A commitment to love that is active, not passive. A commitment to justice that is patient but persistent. A commitment to progress that honors both urgency and care. May we trust that even our smallest, most faithful effort matters. May we remember that glaciers move even when we can't feel them. And may we continue together to shape a worthy future of all people who will inherit it. I thank you for the gift of your time. I thank you for the gift of your presence. And I thank you for the shared moment of reflection.